What's going on, guys? This is Ryan with Dark Outpost, and in the week since the launch of Cyberpunk 2077, it has been an absolute disaster for CD Projekt Red. Nearly everything about this company has taken a hit, from its reputation to its stock price, and they have been left scrambling to try to apologize, putting out this corporate worded apology that isn't really an apology. It's more just pushing the blame onto everyone and everything else while they're facing lawsuits and government fines. But it has left people asking, how did this happen? How did this disaster of a game come to pass? And we have some more information on that. And not only is it filled with greed and people just focused on getting this product out regardless of how good it was, but also about just believing that, well, I mean, we did The Witcher 3, so we can do anything, right? Sounds a lot like what BioWare thought about Anthem, doesn't it? People have been making those comparisons for a while. You can't make the comparison as like the game quality level, let's just be honest with ourselves. But when you look at the development of this game, what the executives at CD Projekt Red put their development team through, it is almost exactly like what we saw with Anthem. And this recent article by Jason Schreier has outlined a bunch of stuff. He has talked to over 20 CD Projekt Red employees to get an understanding of what went down in the years leading up to Cyberpunk 2077, including that 2018 EA gameplay trailer. Yeah, just so you know, that was completely faked. That was not the actual game. They built it just for the trailer. That is why we see so many things that never made it into the game, because it was essentially a faked trailer. That is the levels that CD Projekt Red would stoop to in order to keep up the hype and get your money, instead of doing the right thing and making this game the right way with enough time. Jason Schreier. What went wrong with Cyberpunk 2077? Interviews with more than 20 current and former CD Projekt staff paint a complex picture. Unchecked ambition, technical woes, unrealistic details, and above all, one belief. We made The Witcher 3. It'll work out. Just like we heard with that BioWare magic with Anthem. Now, before we actually get in the article, it needs to be stated, Jason Schreier, I don't like the guy personally. I'm not a big fan of a lot of what he tweets. I'm not a big fan of his politics, but you can't deny that he gets these inside sources at these developers, and he digs in. He digs in and gets a lot of details about it. Now, I'm not going to call Jason Schreier unbiased necessarily. He definitely has his bias. He wants to expose these developers. But the bottom line is he has a history of putting these things out from inside details from these companies. He is the guy that these people go to when there have been problems at the studio. So this is his article. Inside Cyberpunk 2077's disastrous rollout. Developers say they knew the game wasn't ready to be released publicly. CD Projekt Red Chief Executive Officer Marcin Nowinski made a public mea culpa this week about the disastrous rollout of the game Cyberpunk 2077. He took personal responsibility and asked fans not to blame the team. This is that video that we talked about. I made a video on this. Not a lot of people watched it, but I did make a video talking about how they tried to basically shift the blame, how they lied in this video, because things that they had said before, they completely changed their tune in this video to avoid legal liability. Of that, I have no doubt. Interviews with more than 20 current and former CD Projekt staff, most of whom requested anonymity so as not to risk their careers, but he does put some names in here, depict a development process marred by unchecked ambition, poor planning, and technical shortcomings. Employees discussing the game's creation for the first time describe a company that focused on marketing at the expense of development. They hyped it up. Get Keanu on board, everybody. Look at this. This is awesome. Hey, we're going to shit on all these other companies. All the while, we have no fucking idea what we're doing with this game. And an unrealistic timeline that pressured some into working extensive overtime long before it was required. CD Projekt Red declined to comment on the process or provide interviews. Of course, they don't want to talk about this, even though they themselves, CD Projekt, came to Jason Schreier to say, we want to be better. We want to do better, right? They came to him a couple years ago. Now they don't want to talk to him because they went back on everything that they said. They lied about this game continuously up until its release. So yeah, they don't want to talk about this disaster any more than they have to. This wasn't how the development team envisioned started 2021. Instead of celebrating a release, they will aim to turn Cyberpunk 2077 into a redemption story. He describes it a little bit. The game sold 13 million copies at $60 a piece in the first 10 days. Earlier reviews were good, but once players got it on their hands, they realized it had problems on PC and was unplayable on consoles. They removed it from Sony, and Microsoft slapped a warning label on it. May experience performance issues till the game is updated. CD Projekt is facing an investor lawsuit on claims they were misled, like we've said. This is talking about the video where Awinski says they underestimated the task. He blamed the old hardware, and he said that their testing didn't show any of the problems that the console showed. Well, developers who worked on the game said otherwise, saying many common problems were discovered. The staff just didn't have time to fix them. It was an ambitious project by any standard. But everything in Cyberpunk was a departure from what they did with The Witcher. Cyberpunk was sci-fi rather than fantasy. Instead of third person, it was first person, and they had to invest in new technology. They do say that they were trying to develop, like upgrade their engine, develop all this engine stuff while at the same time making the game. They describe it as trying to use a train while the tracks are still being laid in front of you. So constantly having to stop and wait while people build sections of the track before you can go on a little bit. One of the things that slowed development greatly. Former audio programmer said one of his colleagues asked during a meeting how the company thought they would be able to pull off a technically more challenging project in the same time frame as The Witcher. Someone answered, "We'll figure it out along the way." Just like Anthem, everybody, congratulations. You are what you didn't want to become. You are what you insulted, CD Projekt Red. For years, CD Projekt had thrived on the mentality, but this time the company wasn't going to be able to pull it off. "I just knew it wasn't going to go well," said Jakubiak. "I just didn't know how disastrous it would be." Part of fans' disappointment is the amount of time they spent waiting on the game. It was announced in 2012, but according to these developers, the full development didn't start until late 2016 when they hit the reset button. It was supposed to be first person till they hit that, or third person till they hit that reset button. Then it became first person. Studio head Adam Badowski took over as director, demanding overhauls to Cyberpunk's gameplay and story. And just like we see in a lot of these things, a bunch of departures of big staff members because they had creative clashes at the top. So a lot of people that were in charge had to leave. They retooled the game. Another thing that slowed development of this entire process. Much of CD Projekt's focus, according to several people, was on impressing the outside world. A slice of gameplay was showed at E3 2018. It showed the main character embarking on a mission, giving players a grand tour of the seedy, crime-ridden Night City. Fans and journalists were wowed by everything. What they didn't know, that the demo was almost entirely fake. They faked this demo to trick you into thinking that that would be the game. CD Projekt hadn't yet finalized and coded the underlying gameplay systems, which is why so many features like car ambushes were missing from the final product. Developers said they felt like the demo was a waste of months that should have gone towards making the game. They were working long hours, even though Awinski told staff overtime wouldn't be mandatory, but for years, according to some people, they were working 13-hour days, 6 days a week to try to get this game done that they didn't have time to complete. More than a dozen workers said they felt pressure to put in extra hours by their managers and co-workers anyway. Someone said 13 hours a week right there. But one thing I found really interesting, going back to Jason Schreier's right here, listen to this. One CDPR developer told their manager they didn't want to work overtime, as their CEO said would be okay. Fine, their manager said, but one of their other coworkers would have to work extra hours to make up for them. Several other developers shared similar stories. So, well, you don't have to work overtime, but you got to find someone else to work overtime plus whatever they are doing. So, yeah, not exactly the promises that CD Projekt Red had set forth when they talked to him earlier. The overtime didn't make development any faster. At E3 in June, CD Projekt announced the game would come out April 16th. Fans were elated, but internally, some members of the team could only scratch their heads, wondering how they could possibly finish the game by then. One person thought the date was a joke because they thought the game would be ready in 2022. Well, nope, guess we're going to release it in 2020. What an absolute shit show this entire thing was. People are distracted right now by the bugs and glitches and the fact that it doesn't run on console. The fact is the base game on PC is a shadow of what CD Projekt Red promised everyone. It is a bare bones that with everything that has been cut out to give you something that is not next gen, that is not the next step in gaming, nothing like that. It is a bare bones quasi RPG that isn't really even an RPG. It is a piece of shit compared to what they sold to us and what they promised to us. Canceling features and scaling down the size of Cyberpunk's Metropolis helped, but the team's growth hampered some departments, developers said. While The Witcher 3 was created by roughly 240 people, Cyberpunk credits show it had well over 500. But at the same time, things they were trying to emulate, like Grand Theft Auto or Red Dead Redemption, Rockstar has thousands of employees. Multiple places that are developing these games, and they just did not have the manpower to be able to do what they were being asked to do. Even as the timeline looked unrealistic, management said delaying wasn't an option. The goal was to release them before the new consoles, expected fall of 2020, were even announced. That way the company could launch the game on existing PlayStation 4, Xbox One, then double dip by releasing versions down the road for the next gen consoles. As they crammed it in so close, they couldn't do that. They basically had to offer free upgrades because that's almost what every single other person has been doing. Some engineers realized Cyberpunk was too complex to run well on 7-year-old consoles, with a city full of bustling crowds, hulking buildings. They said management dismissed their concerns, citing the success in pulling off The Witcher 3, just like Anthem. But at the end of 2019, management finally acknowledged Cyberpunk needed to be delayed. Last January, they pushed the game's release to September, then COVID happened. CD Projekt Red had to complete the game from their homes without access. They talk about the problems, right? The problems doing it in the COVID world. Everyone understands about that. As the launch date drew closer, everyone at the studio knew the game was in rough shape and needed more time. Chunks of dialogue missing, some actions didn't work. When management announced October the game had gone gold, there were still major bugs being discovered. The game was delayed another 3 weeks as exhausted programmers scrambled to fix as much as they could. When it did launch, the backlash was swift and furious, as we have seen. Many of the glitches and graphical issues can be fixed, though it's not clear what will take to regain a spot on PlayStation. Winning back fans may be difficult, but there's a precedent. Games like No Man's Sky, Final Fantasy XIV, an online RPG, and Destiny recovered from rocky launches and earned critical acclaim. And the market does seem to be hopeful, as CD Projekt Red shares rose 6% after Owinski's apology. Here is the bottom line. The people that want to believe everything CD Projekt Red says, oh, look what they're doing, they're incredible. I get it. I get that you want to believe them and what they're saying, but it's very clear that all along the way, they have been pulling this shit out of their ass. They faked a trailer for E3 to get you excited. They brought on Keanu Reeves to get that marketing. It has always been about marketing, about seemingly being better than all these other people, shitting on all these other people while doing the exact same things that they do. And it is going to take a long time for them to regain their reputation. And there's just going to be more to discover. The way this all laid out, this seems like exactly like we saw that caused the Anthem debacle. That is what happened at CD Projekt Red. They lied to the public, they lied to their investors all the way along to try to give you this aura of, we know everything we're doing, we're CD Projekt Red. We gave you Witcher 3. This is going to be fantastic. Just trust us. Well, a lot of people trusted you and you fell on your faces. Time to get back up and see what you can do from here. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments below. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, share this video out there, and I'll talk to you later. Thanks for watching, everyone, and a huge shout out to my patrons. I appreciate you guys so much. Want to follow me on Twitter or Instagram? Check out the description below. You'll find links to my P.O. box and my Patreon as well. And I'll talk to you guys later.